Sure. Here's a compelling and human-centric introduction for your YouTube video story. The weight of the past is something we all carry, whether we realize it or not. It lingers in the form of regrets, mistakes, and missed opportunities. Maybe it's a job you lost, a relationship that fell apart, or a dream you once had but never pursued. It's easy to get stuck in that cycle, replaying those moments over and over, wondering what could have been different. But what if holding on to the past is the very thing stopping you from moving forward? What if the key to a better future isn't hidden in yesterday, but in what you do today? Imagine standing at a crossroads, one path leading back to everything that once was, your failures, your disappointments, your pain. The other path is unknown, uncertain, but filled with possibility. The choice may seem obvious, yet so many people find themselves trapped, unable to take that first step forward. They let their past define them, shape their identity, and dictate their future. But here's the truth: your past is a chapter, not the whole story. And today, you have the power to turn the page. There's a reason why some people break free and create extraordinary lives, while others remain stuck. It's not luck. It's not just talent. It's the ability to let go, to stop looking back, to stop giving power to things that no longer serve them. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and innovators all have one thing in common: they embrace change. They don't dwell on the past. They use it as fuel to build something greater. And that's exactly what you can do starting now. Simon Sinek, one of the most influential voices in leadership and personal growth, has shared powerful insights on this very idea. He believes that true success comes from focusing on yourself, your values, and your purpose, not on the mistakes behind you. His words have inspired millions to shift their mindset, to move forward with courage, and to trust that their best days are ahead, not behind. And if you're willing to listen, really listen, this message might just change everything for you too. But before we dive into the wisdom that could transform your life, ask yourself one question: are you truly ready to let go? Because if you are, what happens next might just be the beginning of something incredible. This introduction sets up the theme with emotion, suspense, and relatability. Let me know if you want any tweaks. Absolutely. Here's the next part of your story, continuing seamlessly from the introduction. Most people don't realize how much of their present is shaped by their past. It's not just the big moments, the heartbreaks, the failures, or the disappointments. It's also the small things, the doubts, the words people have said about you, the moments where you felt unseen, unheard, or unworthy. These things don't just disappear. They settle deep within, shaping how you see yourself and what you believe you're capable of. Maybe you've tried to move on before. Maybe you've told yourself 100 times that the past doesn't matter, that you should focus on the future. But then something happens. A familiar feeling, a certain word, a memory, and suddenly you're right back where you started. Stuck, second-guessing yourself, wondering if things will ever change. But what if the real reason you're stuck isn't because of what happened? What if it's because of the story you keep telling yourself about it? The way you've come to maybe the real reason you're stuck isn't because of what happened, but because of the story you keep telling yourself about it. The way you've come to believe that your past somehow defines your worth, that the mistakes you made, or the things you lost, have permanently shaped the person you are today. And the longer you hold on to that belief, the harder it becomes to see the possibility of change. But what if that belief is nothing more than a cage, one that was built over time by fear, by doubt, by voices that weren't even your own? What if the only thing keeping you from stepping into something new is the unwillingness to loosen your grip on something that's already gone? There's a man who knows exactly what this feels like. He was once certain that his future was set, that his path was clear. He had built something meaningful, poured years of effort into it, and then, in one moment, it all fell apart. The business he had invested everything into failed. The people he trusted walked away. He was left standing alone, staring at the pieces of something he could never put back together. For months, he couldn't shake the weight of it. Every time he thought about moving forward, he felt paralyzed by the past. He replayed every mistake, every decision, wondering what he could have done differently. The regret became a loop in his mind, trapping him in the same place, over and over again. And then one day, something changed. He was sitting in a coffee shop, lost in thought, when he overheard a conversation at the next table. A woman was telling her friend about how she had spent years waiting for an apology from someone who had hurt her. She kept thinking that if she just got closure, she could finally move on. But then she said something that made his breath catch in his throat. What if closure isn't something you get from someone else? What if it's something you give yourself? Those words hit him like a bolt of lightning. He had spent so much time waiting for the past to make sense, waiting for things to feel right again, waiting for some kind of answer that would never come. And in that moment, he realized something. The past wasn't holding on to him. He was holding on to it. And so he made a decision. He didn't have all the answers. He didn't know exactly what was next. But he knew one thing: he couldn't keep waiting. He had to let go. Not because it was easy, not because it didn't hurt, but because his future was worth more than his past. That man's story isn't unique. It's a story so many people live, sometimes without even realizing it. The feeling of being stuck, of wanting to move forward, but not knowing how. The fear of stepping into something new, because the past still has such a strong hold. But the truth is, every single day, you have a choice. You can keep carrying the weight of what's behind you, or you can decide that today is the day you start something new. Simon Sinek often talks about the power of mindset, the way our perspective shapes our reality. He believes that the stories we tell ourselves matter more than we think. And if you can change the story, you can change your life. But the question is, are you ready to rewrite your own story? Because if you are, the next step is closer than you think. This section deepens the conflict, adding emotion and a human touch while keeping the tension alive. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments. There comes a moment in life when you stand face to face with yourself, the real you, stripped of excuses, distractions, and the noise of the world. It's in that moment when you realize that no one is coming to save you. No one can undo the past. No one can rewrite the choices you've made. And no one, absolutely no one, can move forward for you. For the man in the coffee shop, that moment wasn't a sudden burst of clarity. It wasn't some dramatic epiphany where everything suddenly made sense. No, it was quiet, unsettling, and almost terrifying. Because for the first time, he understood that letting go wasn't just about saying he was ready to move on. It was about action. And action meant stepping into the unknown, without the comfort of the past to hold onto. But stepping forward wasn't easy. The past had been his identity. The failure, the regret, the story of how things didn't work out. It had become part of him. And if he let it go, then what was left? Who was he without the pain, without the struggle? He wrestled with that thought for days. Every time he tried to move forward, something pulled him back. The voice in his head whispered all the reasons why he should stay where he was. Asterisk, what if you fail again? What if you're not good enough? What if this is just who you are? Asterisk. That's the thing about the past. It doesn't let go easily. It clings to you, reminding you of every misstep, every reason why change feels impossible. And if you listen to that voice for too long, it starts to look deep down. A part of him knew, if he stayed in the same place, nothing would change. The past would keep repeating itself over and over, trapping him in a cycle of doubt and hesitation. Still, even with that realization, taking the next step felt impossible. And then, just when he thought he was ready to break free, something happened, something he never expected. One evening, as he scrolled through old messages on his phone, he saw a name he hadn't thought about in years. A person from his past, someone who had once meant everything to him. His heart pounded as he hovered over the name, fingers frozen, mind racing. He had convinced himself that he had moved on, but in that moment, he felt it all come rushing back. The memories, the emotions, the pain. Without thinking, he opened the message thread, reading through words exchanged long ago. And then he saw it, one unread message. His breath caught as he clicked on it. I know it's been a long time, but I need to talk to you. There's something you should know." The message had been sent months ago. He had never seen it, never even known it existed. His mind spun with questions. What could they possibly need to say after all this time? Should he respond? Should he just let it go? Every part of him screamed to ignore it, to move forward like he had promised himself. But something about those words pulled at him. Asterisk, there's something you should know, asterisk. And just like that, everything he thought he had figured out came crashing down. Maybe the past wasn't as finished as his hands trembled as he stared at the message. Asterisk, there's something you should know, asterisk, the words echoed in his mind, growing louder with every passing second. He had spent so much time convincing himself that the past was behind him, that nothing, this was different. It wasn't just a memory. It wasn't just a thought lingering in the back of his mind. It was real, sitting right in front of him, waiting for an answer. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, his breath uneven. A part of him wanted to close his phone, pretend he never saw the message, and keep moving forward. But another part, the part that had been searching for clarity, for peace, knew he had to face it. With a deep breath, he typed out a simple reply. Asterisk, just saw your message. What is it that I should know, asterisk? He hesitated for a moment before pressing send, his fingers tightening around the phone as if bracing for impact. Minutes passed, then an hour, then another. No response, just silence. Doubt crept in again. Maybe he shouldn't have responded. Maybe there was nothing left to say. Just as he was about to put his phone away, it buzzed. A message appeared. Asterisk, I didn't think you'd reply. But I need you to know the truth. About what really happened, asterisk. His breath caught. Asterisk, what really happened, asterisk. He thought he had already lived through it, picked up the broken pieces, and accepted that some things would never make sense. But now there was something he didn't know. Something that could change the way he had seen everything. The conversation that followed unraveled a reality he hadn't been prepared for. The mistakes he thought were his alone. They weren't. The failure he had carried on his shoulders for so long. It wasn't entirely his fault. There had been things happening behind the scenes, choices made by people he trusted, things that had been kept from him. And all this time, he had been blaming himself. The weight of it hit him hard. He wasn't sure if he felt relieved or betrayed. Maybe both. But more than anything, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Free. Because for the first time, he realized that the past had never been what he thought it was. He had been holding on to a version of events that had never been the full truth, and now he had a choice. He could stay angry, he could let resentment take over, or he could finally, truly let go. Not just of the past, but of the person he had been in it. The version of himself that had lived in doubt, in regret, in the belief that he was somehow not enough. That person didn't have to exist anymore. Looking out the window, he felt something shift inside him. A quiet acceptance. He couldn't change what had happened. He couldn't undo the years he had spent carrying the weight of things that were never his to bear. But he could decide, right now, that he would no longer let it define him. The next morning, he woke up feeling lighter than he had in years. The sky looked a little brighter, the air felt a little clearer. He wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of it, because he had finally made peace with his past. Simon Sinek often says that fulfillment isn't about what we achieve, but about who we become in the process. And maybe that's what this journey was all about. Not about rewriting the past, but about stepping into the future with a new understanding of who we are. Because at the end of the day, letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about making space for what comes next. And sometimes, the hardest part isn't the past itself. It's believing that you deserve a future beyond it. But once you do, everything changes. And in that moment he knew his story wasn't over. It was just beginning.